Welcome. I'm Joshunda Sanders, an author and educator, and today I'm joined by Rachel Pittman, who is the Executive Director of the United Nations Association of the United States of America, or UNA USA. Today, as we commemorate the inauguration of President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris, the nation's first female and Vice President of color, we are excited to discuss what Kamala Harris's inauguration means to us personally and what we think it means for the U.S. more broadly, and role models and trailblazers like Kamala Harris who have inspired us as we've navigated our own careers. So welcome, Rachel. Can you tell us about where you're based, where you're from, and what you do for work? You're obviously really passionate about your role, and I wonder why you love it.
Yes. So I'm currently based in Northern Virginia because UNA USA is located in Washington, D.C., one block from the White House. But I'm from a little bit of everywhere. I grew up in Long Island, in Baltimore, and Memphis, Tennessee. So I have a little Southern and a little Northern in me. And currently I serve as the Executive Director of UNA USA, as you just said. And I have the privilege of leading a grassroots organization, which is UNA USA. It's a grassroots organization of Americans that support the vital work of the United Nations. We have 20,000 members. 60% of them are under the age of 26 in all 50 states, Washington, D.C., and Puerto Rico. And they participate in 225 chapters that we have. Our mission is to mobilize, educate, and inspire our membership to support the vital work of the United Nations, its agencies, and the Sustainable Development Goals. So it's such a privilege to work with these individuals who are so passionate about advancing the work that the UN does all over the world. And it's so needed today. And you were asking me or telling me that obviously I am passionate about what I do. It's so true. I mean, I've worked in a lot of organizations prior to coming to UNA USA where they did a lot of important work and it is very much needed. But every day I get to wake up and work on issues that I care about. And I get to do that alongside thousands of volunteers who are passionate about making this world more sustainable. So it's exciting to do every single day.
That's so amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. And thank you for telling us a little bit about UNA USA. It's an amazing organization. I'm curious about what the main mission is for UNA USA.
Yeah, so, we want to localize the work of the United Nations. And when I say that, I mean, we want to help people in the community to understand why we need to combat things like poverty, to figure out solutions to people who are going hungry every day, to make sure that there's equal education in our community. So we do different types of public events, volunteer activities to engage people around these issues and help them understand how it connects to the work of the United Nations. People think, when they think of the United Nations, they think that it's something that they cannot participate in or support because those are issues that are happening on the other side of the world. Well, a lot of those issues are happening right here in the United States. So what we do here in the US, in our community, contributes to a global solution. So those are the types of things that we do every single day through our chapters across this nation.
So great. So we're obviously here today for an historic moment for women and women of color with the inauguration of Kamala Harris. I'm wondering about whether or not you've had role models and trailblazers like Kamala Harris who have inspired you in your work or even helped you as you navigated your career.
Well, I would say that I grew up, was a teenager in the 80s, which means that I was influenced by a lot of talk shows And who else was the biggest influencer back then than Oprah Winfrey? And I say that because, well, I was totally obsessed with her, number one. But number two, she has such an amazing background. I mean, here's a woman who grew up in rural Mississippi by a single mother and then by her grandmother later. She, like Kamala Harris, went to an HBCU. She went to Tennessee State University, but she went on to be this incredible leader, mogul. She started her own production company when she had the Oprah Winfrey Show. She now owns her own network. And I just really admire all the hard work, her ability to bring people together, provide platform for people to tell their stories, talk about why they matter, and bring people together to say that all of our differences are actually strengths. And she does that through her work. She's a big person who believes in education, helping girls from Africa to Morehouse College here in the United States. And those are the values that I'm very much interested in and use as a guide for me as I do the work with UNA USA. So I would say for me, it was definitely Oprah Winfrey growing up.
I can definitely relate to that. I'm so glad that you mentioned her and told a little bit more of her story than I think most people remember or talk about. And, I think most people also forget that she was like a journalist, right? Before she even had her show. And that was part of what I found so inspiring about her as well, right? Was that she had started as a local news anchor and, then kind of created a niche for herself where there wasn't one, or maybe where others maybe couldn't have imagined one for her. Which, I think so many of our trailblazers have that in common, right? That they're the first and they're the pioneers, and eventually we hope, if they're fortunate, that history does remember them. But for the most part, we often kind of forget how difficult it is to be the first.
She was in Baltimore when I was there growing up. And you always hear her talk about stories of when she was in Baltimore, she felt like she had to talk a certain way, or her hair had to be a certain way. And she realized, I need to stand on my own. And that's what I think that helped her excel when she moved on to Chicago and started her own show. She did it her way.
Yes, absolutely. I was just about to say, when you said that, like I remember I was just a little bit behind you in terms of teenage years, but remember growing up watching her and seeing her sort of transform and become basically more of herself over the years as she built her empire and as she expanded what she did. And I loved also that it never included just one thing. She had all these different facets and contained multitudes, as the saying goes. And that was incredibly inspirational because it showed, that we can be more than one thing, that as a young woman of color, I could be more than one thing. I didn't have to just be in one category that was defined for me. So UNA USA is a 70 plus year old organization that was once chaired by champions such as former First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt. And times have obviously changed quite a bit. I'm wondering if you're seeing a shift in the demographic makeup of UNA USA, and if so, why you think that's the case.
Yeah, so when UNA USA was founded over 75 years ago, actually right before the UN was founded, it was founded by a group of Americans. Back then it was called American Association for the UN. So they were a group of Americans that were pushing for the formation of the UN along with 40 other NGOs. And they were looked upon as kind of like a think tank to talk about, why the UN is important, why it should be formed. They would give lectures and write white papers. And over the years, while we still do some of that, we became a grassroots movement. So that means our membership started working closer with their members of Congress, with their local and state government officials to talk about why the UN matters, why their work is so important. And through that, and working through all the different issues, such as poverty and hunger and education, all of these issues affect every American. We're all dealing with that. And through that, you saw more and more different types of people to get involved in UNA USA, so that they can not only help support the UN in global issues, but work on those local issues. So over the years, it just kept transforming. So we look a lot different than we did back then. We have a lot more diversity. And also, we're seeing, when I said we have 60% of our membership is under the age of 26, you're seeing a lot more youth engagement. We believe that youth are not necessarily leaders of the future, they're the leaders right now. You see a lot of that where you look at movements like March for Our Lives, Black Lives Matter. All these different movements are led by young people. And so that's happening also with UNA USA. They are coming to us saying, what can we do to work on these issues to support the UN, which is wonderful because now we have a diverse membership that we are engaging.
It's phenomenal. So what are UNA USA's expectations for this administration?
Well, through the last 4 years, through the current administration, the U.S. has taken a step back in its leadership from the United Nations. So we want to work with the new administration on bringing us back. We have a campaign that's called Bring Us, like U.S. Back, to become leaders again. So things like working on supporting and halting the removal of not being involved with WHO, with the World Health Organization. We're in a major pandemic, as everyone knows, and we need to step up and support this global institution that's bringing countries together to solve the pandemic. We want to get back into the Paris Climate Agreement. We want to make sure our new U.S. ambassador to the UN is a cabinet level position because it's very important. We want to start refunding organizations within the UN agencies, such as UNESCO, the UNFPA, which is the UN Sexual and Reproductive Rights Organization within the UN. So there's so many things that we want to do. And the one really important thing that we want to do is we want to say that we're going to pay our peacekeeping and regular dues arrears by the end of his term. The U.S. will owe this year $1 billion in arrears because we're not paying what we promised to pay as a member of the UN. So there are a lot of things that we are wanting to work with this administration on to make sure that there is strong U.S. leadership at the UN and that we continue to pay our full funding for the UN.
Quite a list.
Yeah. There's more, but we don't have all day.
Yes, exactly. Well, I love ambition, and it sounds like you do as well. And yes, history favors the bold. So that is a wonderful, inspiring list to hear. Speaking of inspiration, I've been thinking about what this moment means to me personally in terms of Kamala Harris's inauguration, and also what it means for the country. And I think, thinking about her and then also thinking about the first lady and now the first husband, and just how much it reminds our children and generations coming after us that we are a nation capable of change and progression and equal opportunity, truly allowing for that and not just saying it, but actually implementing it in the highest offices in our country. So that's what it means to me. I'm wondering what it means to you.
On similar lines, so I am the first African American and the first woman to be the executive director of the United Nations Association of the USA. So that too reminds me that I have a seat at the table, and that as a country, we need to do everything we can to bring other people who may not look like you, who may have a different religion, race, a different sex. They may love someone different than you do, to the table. And we don't only need to do that in our governments, but we need to do this in our in civil society, and not just the national governments, local, state, businesses, everywhere. We need to bring people that are of different backgrounds to the table. And that's what I hope people are getting from this. And what I love about what Vice President Kamala Harris said was, she said, "While I am the first female to be in this position, I will not be the last." And I think that we really need to take that to heart and do the work to bring people and engage them and involve them. And really, it's saying to them that they matter. We want you to be involved and move forward with us.
Yeah, I did love when she said that. It really succinctly encapsulated what I have been so inspired about, which is just that hope and that modeling of making history. What it really signifies. So how does one join UNA USA?
It's very simple. They can go to unausa.org and hit the join button and join our movement and be a part of wanting to make sure that we have a sustainable world by working with people within their community, working with their congressional members, and just making this a better place. So hopefully people watching this will be interested in the work of UNA USA, and go to www.unausa.org.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. And thank all of you for joining us.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Enjoyed it.